ongelooflijk jammer dat wij nu al tegen Marokko spelen. En ik vind het ongelooflijk jammer dat Marokko nu al tegen ons speelt.
Hoe laat wil je wachten totdat je een normale tegenstander tegenkomt dan?
Nee, maar ik bedoel...
Finale?
Nee, een normale tegenstander heb ik niet over. Ik heb het over Marokko hier in dit land. Marokko, er zijn natuurlijk ontzettend veel Marokkaanse voetballiefhebbers. En heel veel, ongelooflijk van... Marokko-Nederland, dat had in de halve finale of in de kwartfinale. Ik vind dit gewoon te snel. Dat vind ik jammer.
Je bedoelt eigenlijk, Hans, dat het leuk is als we samen ver waren gekomen. Marokko en Nederland.
Ik had gehoopt dat ze allebei heel ver zouden komen.
Ja. Aan de andere kant, het is ook wel fijn wat jij eigenlijk zegt. Nou, we krijgen nu echt een tegenstander.
Dat je weet waar je staat.
Nou ja, het gaat er echt om.
Maar is er nog
een hele goede tegenstander.
En nu ga je echt zien. En voor Marokko ook, want Marokko heeft het goed gedaan. Maar we weten nog niet hoe zijn ze onder de druk van erop en eronder of eronder. Want
ik wil alleen maar zeggen, je had nog 12 andere landen kunnen treffen waar het erop of eronder zou zijn geworden.
Ja, maar je had ook Frankrijk. Je had natuurlijk...
maar doe even Marokko niet. Maar daarom snapte ik niet het enthousiasme bij de loting.
Wie vind jij de favoriet eigenlijk bij Nederland-Marokko?
Ik denk toch Nederland, licht.
Ja, het is de nummer 6 tegen nummer 7 op de FIFA-ranking. Ja.
Beetje vroeg, hè?
Beetje vroeg.
Ik denk dat het probleem bij Marokko ligt in het scorend vermogen. Ze hebben Saibari die echt wel laat zien waarom Bayern München hem gekocht heeft. Kijk, wij hebben iets meer scorend vermogen uit verschillende hoeken. Brobby die nu opgestaan is. Ik denk dat verdedigend en de back zal het een beetje om het even zijn. Hakimi of Dumfries. Hakimi een betere speler, maar Dumfries net zoveel drive. Dus het zijn vergelijkbare elftal. Bij Nederland denk ik aanvallend gezien ietsjes zekerder is dan Marokko. Dus
meer ervaring ook, denk ik, Nederland zelfs dan meer ervaring. Maar ik moet wel zeggen, dit Marokko is de Marokko die ik ooit heb gezien met de beste organisatie, de meeste discipline. We weten natuurlijk, Marokkaanse voetballers kunnen echt heel goed voetballen. Op de pleintjes tikken ze iedereen scheel. Daar hebben ze niet al te veel van. Ze hebben juist moderne voetballers. Ze hebben Masraoui, die heel modern speelt als linksback, vind ik, op het middenveld. Ze hebben het middenveld die echt mensen kapot kunnen lopen. Maar ook nog vaardig aan de bal zijn. En Saibari is natuurlijk wel de spits, wat hij eigenlijk niet is. Want dan zeg je, bij PSV kwam hij daar ook vaak terecht.
Maar Marokko is zeer zeker een hele gevaarlijke ploeg. En echt wel een van de gevaarlijkste ploegen, denk ik, ook om in die achtste finale.
Wat bedoel je daar dan mee? Een van de gevaarlijkste ploegen?
Marokkaanse spelers verbeteren me als ik super technisch geschoold. Het zijn super technische voetballers. En nou hebben ze ook nog eens een bondscoach die ze daarin alle vrijheid geeft. Waarin de nadruk voor mij veel meer ligt op balbezit dan op balverlies. Ja, en ik vind ze aanvallend. Met Hakimi hebben ze echt een enorm wapen. En ja, het ziet er gewoon goed uit. Ze zijn veel meer in staat dan 4 jaar geleden om op balbezit te spelen. Dus ze hebben goede lopers. Ja. Ze kunnen allemaal enorm goed lopen.
Het enige wat ik echt wel heb bij het Marokkaanse elftal, wat het verschil is eigenlijk tegen de grote landen, is dat ze weinig klinische spelers hebben die echt gewoon klinisch zijn als ze een kans krijgen. En dat zie je bijvoorbeeld een verschil bij een Frankrijk, bij een Brazilië, Argentinië.
Echt doelpunten maken.
Je ziet toch wel dat ze in die wedstrijden, volgens mij tegen Brazilië kregen ze 2-3 hele grote kansen. Tegen Schotland kregen ze 2-3 hele grote kansen. En dat is denk ik wel het verschil wat ik wel zag bij het Nederlands elftal eigenlijk.
Vind jij dat nu al hebben eigenlijk?
Dat is een van de weinige
Vind je ook dat wij dat meer hebben ten opzichte van Marokko?
Ja, ik vind wel dat je denk ik wel dat Nederland dat wel iets meer heeft. Ik vind wel dat Marokko echt wel in die wedstrijd tegen Brazilië, wat je net ook de nadruk echt wel op het voetballen.
No disrespect to South Africa or Canada, but I think both Netherlands and Morocco would fancy their chances going into those games against two teams who have never reached the knockout rounds of a World Cup before, albeit Canada obviously one of the co-hosts for the tournament. Yeah, both teams will fancy their chances if they get through that far. And Morocco, having already outshone Brazil, albeit in a draw, but outshone them, Morocco should fancy their chance in this game too. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously always wary of looking ahead too far, and I think they'll obviously know that. But as you say, Barney, in the next round, a South Africa or a Canada, with the greatest of respects, they would fancy their chances. They've beaten better teams than those recently, and had a lot of success, obviously, as we know. So yeah, you'd fancy them to win that. So yeah, you would fancy Morocco to. But Sam, this is a tough game. I really do think this is a tough one for Morocco. I know They've been impressive, and I do think Morocco do win this one. I think it'd be very, very close, but I would be wary of thinking, if we get through this one, we've got a relatively easy game in the next round. I don't think anyone's massive. I've not been massively shocked with how good Morocco have been. That'd be fantastic if they reach the quarterfinals. I'd probably say that's a solid showing. Considering obviously, like I said earlier, they might run into France. As you mentioned before the tournament, the players they lost, a good big player at the back, obviously El Azouli as well, was someone that's a big player for them, and they've had players. I've mentioned it before, Sabari, who is going to Bayern Munich this summer. He's obviously scored in all 3 of Morocco's group games this summer, and has looked. I hadn't seen loads of him before, to be honest, playing in the Netherlands. But he looks a really good player, doesn't he? Someone that can play in loads of different positions in the final third. So for Bayern Munich fans, that's incredibly exciting signing for them moving forward. Obviously, Hakimi's been, as you would expect. I think Riyad at the back, obviously, has had a really good tournament so far. El Khanous as well. He's obviously refound himself at Stuttgart and has had a good tournament so far. So they've got lots of different players that are playing well at the moment. And you always think in a team, if you can have 4 or 5 in really good form, and then a couple of others find their way as the tournament progresses. So, yeah, I agree with you, Bunny. I think Morocco win this one, and I think they win the next game as well. What waits beyond that? Because it could be France. I would expect France to beat Morocco, but interesting game. And like Oliver said, one that I'm actually really looking forward to because it's got loads of different side stories, and it should be a really interesting one.
Yeah, it was certainly an entertaining one in their last one against Haiti. Probably more entertaining than most people expected, Oliver. 4-2 thriller in the end. Ultimately, that saw them finish second in Group C. Despite, beating Scotland and then Haiti, arguably their most convincing performance yet is the one game they didn't win against Brazil in that opening game where I think they impressed most people. What have you made of them in general in those wins since that Brazil game? And are there any players, and Matt's just mentioned a few there, but any players that have really impressed you so far? Saibari, I imagine, is the standout.
Yeah, I think despite suffering a few injury blows before the tournament that Matt mentioned before, I think Morocco still look strong. They look like a nation who can compete. They certainly showed that against Brazil, and then I think they got the job done to beat both Scotland and Haiti, and then it maybe wasn't as convincing as you said. Then I think the Brazil performance was probably the best of the 3, considering it was Brazil. But yeah, I think in terms of who has stood out maybe for Morocco, it is hard to look past Ismail Saibari at the moment, who entered this tournament after scoring 19 goals for PSV Eindhoven last season, including 15 in the Eredivisie. So he'll be very familiar with some of these Dutch players who could be involved in this game, and he's carried that impressive form onto the international stage. It's 3 goals in 3 World Cup games. He's the first African player ever to score in each of his team's first 3 group games at the World Cup, and also the first African player to score 3 goals in a single campaign since Asamoah Gyan for Ghana back in 2010. So, I think he's been a standout performer for them so far. He's been playing as this central striker, really, in a fluid front line for Morocco, linking up with the likes of Real Madrid's Brahim Diaz, who is another, I think, who has the potential to hurt the Netherlands, to unlock their defence. He's already assisted 2 goals for Saibari as well at this World Cup. And then I think again we have to mention Achraf Hakimi as well, Morocco's captain, a 2-time Champions League winner with PSG, who scored his first goal at the World Cup against Haiti as well. I think he looked a real threat in that game down the right as a marauding right back, very athletic, very physical. He offers so much to this Morocco team at both ends of the pitch, really. And for Netherlands, you've got Denzel Dumfries, who will do a similar job, I think, on that side. So it'll be really interesting to see which right back comes out on top on this game. And then, elsewhere for Morocco, I think they have this highly rated 18-year-old midfielder in Ayoub Bouardi, who has made a real impression, I think, at this World Cup. He maybe doesn't look the strongest. He still looks, quite young, but I think he's quite an elegant, smart, technically gifted player. He's able to glide past players. He's very composed under pressure as well in that midfield. He announced himself at this World Cup with that dominant display against Brazil, outperforming, I think, the likes of Casemiro and Bruno Guimaraes on that day. And then he helped Morocco to that win against Scotland, but then he was actually benched against Haiti. So I think I'd be surprised if he wasn't reinstated into the starting lineup for this game against the Netherlands. And Bouardi's also a man in demand at the moment at club level. You've got the likes of Arsenal, Man City, Real Madrid. Have all been credited with an interest in him. He currently plays for Lille in Ligue 1. already made over 60 appearances in League One. He's not even turned 19 yet. I think he turned 19 in October. So he's got a lot of experience, I guess, under his belt at a decent level, and he's performed well so far at this tournament. So I think he, along with the likes of Saibari and Diaz and Hakimi, will be probably the main ones to watch out for in this Morocco team.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game for Netherlands. Going to be a